Hi everyone, welcome to the TheEdCollabGathering workshop number 5 with Diana DaCosta and Dominique Paladino, and they will also be joined by their student Lauren to share her insights. Today Diana and Dominique will be talking about future-ready elementary classrooms, critical thinking, global perspective, and informed action. Please remember to join us on the conversation by tweeting at TheEdCollabGathering space number 5. Over to you, Diana and Dominique.
Good morning, fellow lovers of education. Thank you for tuning in on what is a dreary day in New Jersey for PD in your pajamas. Thank you, Kelsey, our fabulous tech coordinator, for introducing us. As Kelsey stated, my name is Dominique Paladino, and I am honored to be here today sharing in the energy of this wonderful day that Chris Lehman and his team at the Ed Collab has organized for all of us. This is my eighth year as an educator. I've spent 7 years in West Caldwell School District as an intermediate elementary teacher and part-time literacy coach. I share in the passion for Readers and Writers Workshop and tech integration. So this is quite an honor to be here today presenting along many of my mentors that I've been reading books about for years. And this is my first year out of the classroom as the Regional Curriculum Coordinator for Pascack Valley Regional High School. Shout out Pascack. And now I'm fortunate to be working alongside amazing teachers, writing curriculum, and coaching them to improve their craft. So I'll turn it over to my former colleague, Diana DaCosta, and our former student, Lauren Gare, as well.
Hi, everyone. So as Dominique said, my name is Diana DaCosta, and I have been in the teaching game for 15 years, 14 of which have been in the classroom in the upper elementary grades from grades 3 to 5. And this is my first year stepping out of the classroom, and now I am a tech integration specialist for West Orange Public Schools in New Jersey. And so basically what that means is that I get to work with a talented group of teachers and staff, and we're all in the inquiry of how do we effectively integrate technology into the classroom. It's a dream job. I have so much to say about education, technology, and media literacy, and where we are going with kids in the classroom. So I am beyond thrilled to be on this conversation and to be sharing with all of you out there. You know, taking the opportunity to learn on a Saturday through this amazing platform. So thank you to Chris Lehman and the amazing behind-the-scenes team that make this event possible for educators everywhere. PD in your PJs, on demand, anywhere, anytime, brilliant. So we are also excited to include one of our former students in the conversation. Lauren will be the student voice to help share the perspective of her peers. Lauren, say hello.
Hi, my name's Lauren, and I had Miss Paladino and Miss DaCosta for teachers last year. I loved learning about technology, and I hope that you do as well.
Very good. Thanks, Lauren. So, Dom and I today want to share our story, our aha moments, as if you will, as we underwent a shift in the way we taught in the classroom. I really perceive what we do in the classroom day in, day out as a craft and something that we need to refine and reflect upon. And no better colleague to do this with than Dominique. I only know her now for 3 years. We worked together for 2. But when I transitioned to Caldwell, where she was previously, we just bonded instantly over our mutual passion for Reader Writers Workshop. By chance, we had studied the same literacy greats out there. You know, we read Harvey and Lehman and Robert Servallo, and so we were those, you know, teachers that beyond the day, we would close down the school, we would close down Starbucks, just, you know, collaborating, you know, and it was just like instant oatmeal. Just add water, right? And pedagogy, that was us. So at the end of our first year together, we tinkered and we dabbled a little bit with this notion of integrating technology, but there were limited devices, and you know, sometimes it was a little bit of a tug of war between Dominique and I to sign out that cart. But we started to see a need for that one-to-one push. And lo and behold, our district had an open call for a proposal for any teachers that would like to try to get a one-to-one situation going on in their classroom. So we went over to the local coffee shop, SB, and wrote up our proposal and dream built and kind of thought about what would it be like if we really had these devices at our disposal at any time. Lo and behold, we were granted the cart, and with that became this huge sense of responsibility, right? We didn't want the cart, this thing that we were armed with, to become a very expensive set of worksheets. How could we transition? If we think about the SAMR model and how, in the beginning you just do that substitution and augmentation, we really wanted to transform what we were doing and move along the way and modify and redefine what we were doing in the classroom. So we really thought and proposed what a future-ready classroom would look like.
So that brings us to our presentation today, as Kelsey had introduced us, Future-Ready Elementary Classrooms. Critical thinking, global perspective, and informed action will be our three bends throughout the presentation. And if you're following us on Twitter today, we are going to take questions and answers. You can follow me at Dominique P315, and you can follow Diana at DaCosta13. And if you are following us on Twitter, or even if you're just following along and listening and you have a stack of Post-its and a pencil in front of you, we just invite you to think about your own definition of what future-ready elementary classroom looks like, or just what does future-ready mean to you. So if you could take a minute and send out a tweet or even jot it down. So some of our school districts are future ready, and others are just coming into this idea of future ready or changing our mindsets a bit to change the traditional classroom. So what we wanted to do today was define a little bit in terms of what Diana and I believe a future ready classroom is about. And we believe in the 4 C's: collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and communication. So it is a true shift in mindset for teachers and students alike. We need to stop viewing children as buckets and teachers as bucket fillers. We are not the keepers of all information and content for our learners. A future-ready classroom fosters a space for inquiry, innovation, and student agency. And even Smokey said it this morning in the keynote, curiosity really sparks interest along your classroom, and that's what we really need to make sure as teachers we're allowing for our students. Students need to be empowered by teachers to conduct their own investigations to lead towards authentic learning. In turn, this will allow for increased motivation, student choice, and engagement.
Okay, so we wanted to start with a throwback, if you will. And, if you look at these images, it's important to remember where we as educators came from. I'm a child of the 80s, so when I think back to research at the elementary level, right, I have these images in my mind, these finite resources that, the minute they were printed and copyrighted, the next day kind of already were out of date. So what I'd like for you to do is to consider, where did you come from? A couple weeks ago, Jen Saravallo was at my school district, and I was privileged to hear her speak. And she had us as educators reflect back. Before she started her whole talk on reading strategies, she reflected back into what was it like to be a student of reading. And, we all had crazy stories, round robin reading, Dick and Jane books and all that. But so it was important to acknowledge the kind of education we received, because sometimes when we read, the best practices nowadays and we go and try it out, sometimes when it doesn't work out the way we really want it to, we fall back to the way that we were taught. And because it worked for us, why not, right? And I started to think about this inside of technology, and I think that's why part of integrating technology for some of us, and as for me in the beginning, it was scary because, or very uncomfortable, I should say, because there was nothing for me to fall back on. I hadn't seen it done before. It wasn't done to me as a student. So I didn't really know what it would look like. But, you know, when you think about the one mentor that I heard speak and changed my mind about integrating technology and digital literacy and all that was Eric Scheveninger. I heard him speak at a conference in New Jersey, and he said something, and it's like, how can we prepare our students for the future if we're stuck in the past? You know, so we really have to consider that. Think about, you know, the fact that these kids are not living into our future, okay? And then we have to get them ready for the future that they're living into.
So our three major takeaways that we're hoping you leave us with today are, one, critical thinking, bringing a global perspective into your classroom, and also how to inform action, take action, a call to action within your classrooms. So we want to begin with critical thinking, learning how to integrate content areas throughout your year. So of course, we all have the same constraints within a school. We have the schedule, we have our curriculum. So to begin thinking about unifying issues and to begin thinking a little bit more thematic around your year, so to allow for more flexibility within your curriculum and how you're going to about tackling all of the things that need to go into throughout your year. Secondly, bringing in global perspective. With the ability of technology, we have this open door in terms of we went with a one-to-one Chromebook classroom, and it's not necessarily one device per child. It's this idea of one to the world. So it's this doorway or entranceway within opening up to the world, and for children to really become producers of digital content and not just consumers of it. And then lastly, informed action. We used a problem-based learning instructional model within our classroom to really allow our students to find real-world problems and to build and work towards prototypes and brainstorm different solutions that would impact our society. So truly authentic.
Okay, so we want you to think about, and you could tweet it out to us too, what does critical thinking look like in your classroom? Albert Einstein said, education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. And, you know, in the past, and this is true story, true confessions of a elementary teacher, you know, I'd provide students with a text set, and I'd say, you know, maybe there'd be some informational articles, maybe a video. I got a little advanced there, integrating technology. And, you know, I thought I was giving my kids choice, and I thought I was giving my kids variety. But really, their understanding was just that, just whatever I handed over to them. The shift now we started to look at was the transference of skills. What skill set do kids need in order to get a deeper understanding of the topic that they were covering? So, you know, with the digital integration there, you know, students were able to curate their own knowledge, bring back resources themselves, and we had to teach them some skills along the way. You know, how do you read close a YouTube video, or what does a hyperlink mean in a text if you're reading it online? So,
exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
As Diana was mentioning, we also just want to cite Webb's depth of knowledge. So as Diana had mentioned, when we began this journey, you know, in our teaching careers, and we're working towards different things in reading and writing, and kids are working towards, you know, different areas of investigation, and they're researching for their informational writing, and we're supplying these text sets, and they're watching videos and extrapolating information. We started thinking about Webb's depth of knowledge and really trying to grow in cognitive complexity for our students. So if you think about the DOK levels, we have level 1 is simple recall. So it's identifying and reporting. So as you saw those encyclopedias prior in our past slides, how many of us were just, even as students of our own and as teachers too, dating back and thinking about and reflecting on our careers, where we had students just kind of identifying and reporting. And then as you're growing and pushing into level 2 in terms of skills and concepts, so students begin organizing information and classifying. So they begin looking at articles and text and reading and understanding how to maybe take notes organized based on different text structures and hybrid articles and how to combat that through their skills and toolbox. But not just stopping there, growing and moving towards level 3, which is strategic thinking. And that's really what we want students to be doing with information, not just organizing it and classifying it and making sense of it, but more so developing logical arguments and claims, drawing conclusions for them to be able to explore and answer their own questions and start making a claim about an idea and finding evidence to support it. And then really within level 4, which we'll be talking about today, is extended thinking. So not just making that claim, but then it's a big push for students to be creating something and designing something and then critiquing it and having that chance to revise and implement something that could truly change or be a solution to an ongoing problem. Which leads us to this instructional model that we implemented within our classroom. So it's a problem-based learning approach. It is not to be confused with project-based learning, even though it does have some similarities and differences. But problem-based learning is more so about this student-centered pedagogy, in which students learn about a subject through experience of solving an open-ended problem. So again, this idea of inquiry, and for us in our classrooms, we posed this question to our students: why should we save endangered species? So this was our thematic investigation. And we just invite you now to think about, even tweet or write down on a post-it, about what world issues would be relevant to your students. So think about your curriculum right now, think about what you're teaching currently, and think about if there is a problem or a unifying issue that's out there, what would it be, and what would your students be passionate about to kind of work towards a problem and coming up with a solution for it.
Okay, great. So I'll give you a couple seconds just to get that thought down. Okay, so actually, just real quick, Lauren, can you just mute your, right, okay, and then, there we go. So you may notice that, do you have the picture up of the notes?
Yes, I believe
great.
that.
There it is. Okay, sorry. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone had this visual to understand that even though we integrated technology and we had these Chromebook cards, it's not always about like being on the screen. You know, we had to gradually release over to that, and still, you know, sometimes the right technology was the pencil and your writer's notebook. And we had to provide students with a framework for how to think. You know, going back to Einstein's, you know, quote there, it's not so much the facts so much as it is just the strategies and being able to think. So we didn't disown the pedagogy of reading skills and strategies. So just to remember not to abandon that, even if you're thinking of, you know, oh, I'm going to get all these devices and now we always have to be online. You know, there was merit to spending time in our writers' notebooks and giving them a framework so that this way they could transfer these skills from reading an article on paper to reading a news clip online. So, you know, here's a few snapshots of what our classrooms started to look like. You know, kids were collaborating. Sometimes we had like BYOD, so not only did we have the Chromebooks that were issued to us, but kids were welcome to bring in their own devices and, you know, work with whatever tools they wanted to, just to help them curate their knowledge. But it really, there was like a vibe in the room that shifted once we released into this model?
Absolutely. So the lines became a little blurred, as Diana had mentioned before. And because we had this area of exploration, and students were conducting this investigation and really trying to come up with real solutions as to how to help these endangered species. Whatever inquiry study you're working within, it's important to encourage your students to ask questions. It's important for them to think about, so what? Why is this important that we're learning this today? Why does this matter? What can I do as a student to help within society? And why is this research important? And how can I make things better? So thinking about those questions in the classroom and having that drive your instruction, it becomes authentic for students. They're motivated. As Smokey was even mentioning before, in terms of just curiosity was sparked in the classroom. So this can be an overwhelming task to begin in your classrooms, and even this idea of exploration or student-led investigations. So I just want to go back to a mentor in terms of Tony Stead's work and his graphic organizer that is very helpful in terms of maybe launching this kind of unit. So this is almost like a KWL chart on steroids a bit, if you will, but it's this idea of what do we think we know? So you're starting off your unit and students are kind of writing down what they think they know. Then as you're working through, you're going to have some confirmed facts, some confirmed knowledge. And then you have misconceptions. So that's going to be important because us as facilitators, as teachers, it's important for us to correct any of those misconceptions as students are researching and learning new information. And then, of course, own discoveries which are new that students maybe didn't even realize they were going to come out of the unit. And then, of course, ongoing wonderings to, again, promote that idea of curiosity and just questions within your classroom. So this could be super simple in terms of something like this. It could be on chart paper. I've seen it on huge bulletin board, butcher paper up in classrooms. I've seen it as Padlet, and also even on a Google Doc, getting kids for the idea of flexibility online, and they're able to move across their columns and collaborate within a Google Doc. So using tools, like Diana had said, it's that hybrid model. It's whatever your tech is that day. It could be a flexible Post-it, or it could be a Padlet post, or it could even be markings on a Google Doc. Either way, it's just that idea of flexibility and for students to be free to think and question a bit.
And like I'm seeing this tweet come through, Hayhurst 3 said, it's not technology for technology's sake, it's the right tool for the job. Bingo, like exactly. You know, sometimes teachers become overwhelmed and they think they have to abandon what they've always done, and sometimes it's not the right tool. So perfect.
Absolutely.
You know, the other thing, just to quote Kristen Zimke, who will be speaking and is my idol, my reading her book, Amplify, yay. But she said in the past, you know, the best teacher is also a student, and we have to remember that. And really, like that photo, you know, of the different shots from our classroom, we came to realize that we weren't the only teachers in the room. There were about 20 others. You know, they were contributing to each other and learning from each other.
Right. And knowing that you've achieved this sense of a student-centered classroom is when students begin to wonder, when are we going to learn science today? Or when are we having writer's workshop or reader's workshop? So this true sense of flexibility that our classroom kind of morphed into, and just this desire that students were excited to come to school. They were excited to begin their work. Everyone had their goals and their mission for the unit and their tasks, and this idea of just independence and self-led investigation was truly really exciting to see each and every day, and students were excited to just kind of show up and get started in the work, and again, not being so concerned in terms of when are we getting to math today or when are we getting to science, because it was more of an integrated approach, and they were learning without even realizing that they were truly learning.
Right, and so we want to share one of the tools that we used with you, with our students, that made learning go beyond the school day. You know, it would be at nighttime, we would use Edmodo as a online learning management system. And basically it was an opportunity for our students to back channel with each other and have a written conversation about the topic of inquiry. And so they they were working in small groups and teams that they had generated. They were finding different resources and bringing it to the table. And one of the things that Tom and I looked at, we had done the same unit just as a writing unit the year prior, and just for them to do an argumentative writing piece. And we had given them the text sets. What we gave them was it. They brought back so much more than we could have ever researched, and we burned the midnight oil finding resources for our kids, and the videos and the articles that brought such deeper understanding was inspiring to us. We were shocked. We're like, oh, geez, if we only thought of that last year, we wouldn't have had to work so hard. So we want Lauren to weigh in here because she participated in these in Edmodo. So Lauren, can you share your perspective with the audience?
Yeah, I think Edmodo is a really great tool to use for your students because you kind of let them go off on their own, finding their own research, which it definitely taught me to be more independent, and it's helped me for projects like that I'm doing now to do my own research. So that is really good, and Edmodo is just like a fun thing to do, and it's a great way to learn in general.
Yeah, and one of the things too that we had to kind of, it was a gradual release. So we had to teach kids how to those soft skills that we as adults take for granted of being online, teaching them that this is an online classroom, an online platform. And so we had to do those, mini lessons of the invisible skills that we as adults take for granted and explicitly teach how to back channel or how to be on an online platform and collaborate. So we're going to go to our next bend, which is a global perspective. And Russian Hurley said, if students are sharing their work with the world, they want it to be good. And if they're sharing it with you, they want it to be good enough, right? So inside of that, it's one thing to create that online community on Edmodo or Google Classroom, whatever you're using. It's just, on your online community with students. But how do we go beyond the classroom walls? How do we go beyond, we were kind of in the beginning, between our classrooms, and maybe we reached out to our school community, but we wanted to break down those classroom walls and go global, and how to do that. So we brought in various different tools. We brought in Blogger, and we use that as our medium to get kids to reach out. And there was a whole different vibe when kids were doing an assignment on Blogger or posting to Blogger. Before clicking that publish button, they were so vested in what they were saying. In the past when kids did writing for me, it was just like, they were excited about it, but they would just turn it in, and there was maybe a celebration, but the fact that it was go global, these kids, were very much more excited and vested in what they were writing about.
Absolutely. And going global and bringing a global perspective and aspect into your classroom, again, how do you start? Where do you begin? So think small. First, within your zone of proximity. You need to start within your own school. So we started collaborating like we've been discussing, and then we started thinking, who else in our school would want to be a part of this process? So we started reaching out to our special teachers, our librarians, our art teacher, and pulling in anyone that wanted to be a part of this and integrate with us. So you can see here, our teacher, who is wonderful, Eve, was nice enough to just observe the class and think about what kind of project could be helpful for students as an art aspect and another outlet for a lot of our artistic students. So we also brought in art murals through this idea of endangered species as well, according to the biomes that they were researching. So then we started collaborating within our school. Then we started thinking, okay, how can we bring this district-wide? So we started talking to other fourth grade teachers across buildings and letting them know, inviting them into our classrooms, again, establishing perhaps some learning walks across district within your grade levels. And then soon tapping out to the community as well. Other stakeholders, community businesses, just kind of outreach, and then growing into that global platform, which Diana will talk about next in terms of Blogger and Twitter as well. Just again, forming that ripple effect.
Yeah, so as we said, as I said earlier, we use Blogger as one of our tools, platforms for kids to reach out. In the beginning, this was all new to us. So it started out like, I don't know, maybe November, December of the year, and we would publish like finished pieces. But then we let them pretty much go to free flow and talk about, like reflect and really get those levels of metacognition where they would reflect upon their learning. And that's where we started to see, the payoff once we released over to the students. So on the screen right now, we have Lauren's blog from last year. So we wanted her to kind of talk you through it and share a little bit from her blog.
Well, these are like my first couple of posts, which we started, like Ms. DaCosta said, in early December. And the before and after one, I like that one because it kind of shows you how like you can customize your own blog and make it like your own. Well, I blogged about my writing or my writing pieces, and that was a coding project that I posted the link for. I like this post because we did a lot in writing this year, and each unit was really different from the next one or the one before that. So I was really excited when Ms. DaCosta said that we were going to do a writing post again. And this was my last post, which was just like a goodbye fourth grade one, and those were only a few of my favorite memories, and I don't know.
It's great.
It was just a really good year.
Awesome. So again, this idea of a platform, a reflection, students were able to comment on each other's posts, and parents as well, and also community members and our principal, just to kind of see what was going on, and anyone else that was out there in the Twitterverse and community.
I'll also just talk a little bit more about Twitter and how we incorporated Twitter. I started to wonder, how else can we make more of those global connections? How else can we reach out? And so we started a class Twitter account so that we could tell our story and we could connect to the other teachers and the parents at large, and share our process. So the other thing was that we were able to model positive use of social media. Oftentimes social media gets a bad rep with kids. So we showed them how you can make powerful connections and use any platform really for positive. So here's a couple of shots that we, some of the work that we were doing. There's also another picture.
Yeah, again, Twitter is just this real-time platform that we were able to use within the classroom. Parents were able to see exactly what was going on, what was the learning of the day, talking about posting your learning objective out there on your classroom board. Parents were really in touch with what was going on. They felt a presence in the classroom even though they weren't there. And students were able to go home and reflect. You know, at the dinner table, you're asking, hey, often like good, something like that, and then, you know, the conversation just became richer because parents were able to see what was unfolding like right beyond their eyes. And Lauren also wanted to kind of weigh in and give her perspective in terms of just the process, again, of this unit and how things looked in the classroom, how it felt.
It was definitely really different than anything I've ever done in school, ever, and it just, like you guys said before, it went into a bunch of different subjects. Like first, it started off as just like an argumentative writing piece, then it went into the STEM project, and then science, reading, and even art. So that was just really fun. It took up like our whole day sometimes, which I liked. And I don't know, it was probably the best project I've ever done.
Awesome.
You know, and also just going back to the use of Twitter, the connections. So we, around this time, just by chance, Disney Nature came out with their movie Monkey Kingdom last year, and it just was a perfect tie-in to everything that we were learning about. So we had gone, and we went on opening day, which the kids were super excited about, because part of our ticket went to an organization, Conservation International, to help out their cause and helping endangered animals. So we had tweeted out that, you know, our ticket and that we were going, and they were so thrilled to hear that we were retweeted and, you know, that they liked our post. So again, making those real life connections. One of the other unexpected outcomes of using Twitter, you know, when I first started, I just wanted to communicate to parents. I never thought that it would be reciprocated, but it was so exciting to see parents post their kids doing work from home and sharing with us. It gave me perspective of what was going on beyond the classroom. So that was very powerful. And again, not something that I intended to happen, but it's great, you know. So, and I see there's other, you know, people are saying on Twitter, tweeting, connecting to authors. Yes, for sure. Like they will, you know, we've had that experience with author Mark Clark where we were able to connect, and he came on and shared the writing process with students. So to hear from a real live author, it's like super, it makes it real for the kids.
Right. There's nothing better than that when you're sharing a mentor text and you mention Ralph Fletcher or someone and wonderful, and they retweet you and you share that with your class and they know they're not alone in this effort and we're there together as a team working towards being better readers, writers, and these are real mentors and authentic literature that people care about. So it is really inspiring for our students. So this kind of brings us to our third bend within our presentation today about informed action. So we're stealing a quote from Roger Lewin in terms of, too often we give children answers to remember rather than problems to solve. And we really believe this. We as teachers are not, again, those bucket fillers. It's not our job for students to sit down at their desks and do these worksheets and go over and correct them and make sure they have all the correct answers. It's our job to allow them to fail, take risks into the classroom, and just ask questions and allow them, give them the tools to, you know, investigate those questions and find those answers for themselves. So again, students just aren't consumers of content, but explorers and producers of media. We need to give students agency, energy, and the ability to make their own decisions and conduct their own learning. Students will need to solve challenging and complex problems in this ever-changing world, and we as educators are starting that road and that pathway for them.
So we went into this whole unit, like Lauren had said, we did a STEM project, right? So we integrated everything all together, and we had kids create prototypes for their enclosures. They created enclosures to save, their endangered species that they had researched and looked into. So classroom just transformed into an art studio. Why not, right? But paint, smocks, let's go, let's bring it. So it was just, not what the year had looked like prior, but they were so vested in this process. We also needed, and we kind of spoke about, like, we need, you guys are the experts, educate the world. So we had this expo that we had created, and we're going to get a little bit into that. Here are some of the examples of the enclosures that students created, and had you spoken to any of these representatives, they would have explained why they had what they had going on. Here's an example of an art mural. I mean, these things are huge, but it was beautiful because it decorated and it gave more to our what we called the Wild Earth Day Expo 2015. Yes, we had our own hashtag, and this is where kids just displayed all their knowledge, and they shared. They were the teachers that day. Pretty much, Dominique and I got out of the way. And they had a choice of displaying their knowledge and using anything in their vast tech toolbox, podcasts, QR codes, presentations, slide presentations, making PSAs on iMovie, infographics. They used Padlet, some, Scratch if they coded a project, anything that they wanted to do to convey to their community. So we had their peers, we had community members, parents come in and learn from the students.
Exactly, and just this idea of mastery through exhibition. It wasn't this assignment that we were giving students, and it wasn't for a grade. It was for learning for the sake of learning, and students were becoming experts within their craft. And Lauren's just going to share her perspective about the day.
Well, it was really, really busy and a little bit stressful because we worked so hard and we did not want anything to go wrong. But it was really worth it in the end. And this is just a picture of me with my name tag. Someone in my group, her dad, was nice enough to get us little name tags with our names in them, which that I felt kind of professional with.
Yeah, we had these kids, Lauren, your group did the lanyards, and then we had T-shirts in another group. They were taking it to a whole other level, but we were loving it. So thanks, Lauren, for your perspective. I know we're coming down on time.
Yes. I'm just going to leave us with Smokey's words, too. This idea of engaging students and kids in open inquiry where they choose a curiosity they are interested in and they invest in it. So just 3 takeaways from the presentation: shift in mindset, cross-curricular learning, and authentic learning. So it's important to change your mindset. We challenge all of you today to just rethink your year. If you could reimagine what your classroom could look like and do anything with your students, what would it be? How will you open up or even change your unit that you're in now? How could you begin dabbling in some of these ideas and strategies we talked about today? Or even looking into next year and recharging and restarting in September? What would it look like to you?
Right, so as we end today, we want to implore you to take a look at your craft and upgrade your practice. Take small steps. Know that it's not going to be perfect. We know that it's not going to be perfect. But the payoff is tremendous. It's going to be messy. Yeah, messy, very messy, but it's fun. So know that the payoff is tremendous when students take on ownership of their own learning. Look for a lot of support. Dominique and I had each other, and we pursued what we pursued because we encouraged one another. And we also heard, you know what, I got your back from an administrator who wanted us to tinker and try and push ourselves as we ventured out into this new territory. Sometimes it looks like to others that you're going rogue when you do these things. Right. And so for that, we say stand your ground and take the lead and go for it. Because the students, that's why we're here. The students in our classrooms today, they are living into a future that is unrecognizable to us. We don't know what jobs are going to exist. We don't know what the world is going to be like when they are done with their education. So yes, it's important that they have the content, and yes, certain knowledge things. But I think what the most important thing is that they have these soft skills, that they can persevere, so they can compete and function in the global society that they're living into. And so as we end today, we really wanted to give the final word to Lauren, because we wanted Lauren to speak to you, the educators, so you get a sense of what our students want.
For all of the teachers out there who are watching and listening, just don't be afraid. Try new things. It might be difficult at times, but it's always worth it. I think that technology in a classroom is really good. It definitely opens up a new part of the student's brain, and it gives us a lot of independence and freedom learning-wise. Just don't be afraid and try new things.
Just do it. Yay! Thank you, Lauren.
Saturday Learning. Thank you all.
All right, Kels.
All right. Thank you, Diana and Dominique and Lauren, for that important discussion about making our classrooms future ready and having students be so involved in their own learning. That was exciting. If you would like to continue the conversation, please tweet Diana and Dominique at the TheEdCollabGathering at number 5. And please check out the upcoming presentations for session number 2. Thanks for listening with us.